Pledge complete. My journey through Dark Souls is done. And the world is still ending and my character is dead and everything is still depressing. Welcome back to the final Dark Souls journal where I finalize my thoughts on Dark Souls now that I've played through the credits and can finally share is this game for me or not? Well, let's just say it did not quite click the same way it did in Monster Hunter. So I'm definitely going to be comparing those two. I had an amazing chat with Rurikhan on his podcast. So if you want to have a more fleshed out discussion between my thoughts and Rurikhan, a veteran and an expert in Dark Souls and like a super hardcore fan, go check that out. That's a 2-hour discussion. Here, we're going to keep it short and going to recap my last stream, which had me going through the DLC and my overall view of Dark Souls and how it was like as a new player playing it in 2021. Where we left off last time was Artorias, and that's where I started the stream. And I have to say Artorias lived up to his expectations. So everybody told me Artorias was one of the best fights in Dark Souls. And I agree, like I went in there and that fight was hard. He was destroying me. But I was learning that, okay, he's jumping here, I got to dodge here. Eventually, it was one of those fights where it's like, take off the armor. You don't need the armor. You need the rolls. You need the fast rolls. And so, not the heavy rolls, but the fast rolls. And learning Artorias was not frustrating. The only thing that was frustrating about that is the run back. And I've shared this in the podcast. The fact that I feel every boss in Dark Souls has two difficulty aspects to it. There's the fight itself, which requires a certain amount of learning and studying and practice. And then there's the freaking run back from the bonfire to the boss, which I 10 out of 10 hate. I hate that part of Dark Souls. And that is the one part that I don't know if it gets better, but this is what actually made me quit Hollow Knight the first time I played Hollow Knight. And I'm realizing how many similarities there are between Hollow Knight and Dark Souls now that I've played the two, and it's crazy. So when I first played Hollow Knight, the fact that you would die and then you'd be sent back to your bench and then you had to go all the way back, I was like, oh, screw this. And then I had to get my souls back. I was like, that is BS. The thing that when I eventually revisited Hollow Knight and fell in love with it is I realized if you adventured enough, the benches were always close enough to the boss fights where you didn't have to really grind out too much. If I recall right, or maybe I just got better, there wasn't a place after I got comfortable with Hollow Knight where I felt like there was an overly grindy part to get from the bench to the boss. With Dark Souls, it's the same concept where there are different bonfires and they're hidden, and you can eventually find optimal bonfires to go to so that you don't have such a big trek to the boss. But even the best ones, I feel, you still have to gun it through some areas with monsters that are attacking you, and if you get a little lazy, you lose half your health, then you lose a Nestus, and it's just not fun. That run back is not fun. I just want to, I died from the boss, which I'm fine with, but I just want to be back at the boss to try again. As a player, that's what I want to do. But instead, the game makes me go all the way through a place I don't want to go just so I can fight the boss again. And in some cases, when you know that your knowledge of the boss is not great, you basically know that you're running through all of this garbage mob just to go and get a glimpse of another attack from the boss, knowing that you're going to die, but you're going to learn more. And I think that is the mechanic I hate the most, because I'm okay with dying to the boss, and I'm okay with repeatedly fighting a boss. But the fact that I have to go through that journey, that run back, just to get a nugget of information for the boss, that's unsatisfying. So anyways, Artorias wasn't too bad for that. I think you just had to run through two wood guardians, and for the most part you could ignore them, but it was just it's just long. You just have to run, you have to go down the elevator, and then you go back in there. So anyways, once we got into the Artorias fight, it was fun. When I finally got him, it was all about being patient, landing about 1 or 2 hits on him, roll, dodge, and then hit those hits. It felt really good and really satisfying. So Artorias, best fight. Afterwards, I kept exploring, and the chat guided me to, oh man, I don't have my notes, but I think his name is the Black Dragon. We're going to call him the Black Dragon. I know it starts with a K and ends with meat, but there's a syllable I'm missing there. The Black Dragon, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is my Monster Hunter. I love it. He roasted me. I had the whole Havel armor, so I actually lived. So I got roasted twice, lived. I'm like, I can't take this guy on. Let's get out. And I went back to the giant with the big bow who's blind and ended up shooting down the black dragon. And then he's like, okay, now he's down. Go ahead and fight him. So I'm like, okay. So I walk in there and he's coming, like the black dragon's coming at me. I'm like, oh, this is Monster Hunter. I'm all about the black dragons. Come on in. And the music cues. And I didn't realize that the music I use in the beginning of my streams, like the waiting screen, there's 2 songs. There's one that's like a very peaceful kind of quiet tune. And then it goes into his theme song. And I never realized it was his theme song. So when that music like kicked in, I was like, oh my God, this is like one of my favorite tracks. Because when I set these like stream things up, I usually go through a game's soundtrack and I don't read necessarily too much what the titles are to avoid spoilers. I just listen to the tracks and I'm like, which one fits like a starting soon screen and which ones do I like? And so that was one of the songs I had picked as one of my favorite like iconic songs. And so to like finally understand where it fits into the game, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And so I got really aggressive and fought this thing like I fought all my other black monsters. And I could like see the patterns in anticipation. Like there's a part where he like does like a fanning flame. And I see him like look this way. I'm like, oh, we're running this way. And I was like just on him like crazy. And he died. I think it took me 2 attempts. One, because I didn't know how he fought. And the second, I guess I got a little lucky and it was all about sticking close to him and just bah, 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 and he died. So I was on a high. I had just fought like 2 of the best 2 of the best bosses in my journey so far in Dark Souls. And then they're like, all right, the final DLC is Manus. So I'm like, the final boss in the DLC is Manus. So go kill him. So I wander down. Everything's like kind of comfortable to explore and fight. I'm okay. I go down into like this like really like creepy like hole. And then we see Manus, which is in a dark room. He's got like this big like dark arm and he's rejaining me by like wombo comboing me and tossing me. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this. And now this is where that run back is even more painful, because this run back requires you to go through a few more enemies. There's a caster on a cliff which shoots things at you and laughs, which is the worst part. And then if you get hit by that, 2 hits and you're dead. And then you have to do the run back again. So just that run back segment was super frustrating. And then the fact that Manus, I was not like okay, it was a dark room. I can't see like half of them because the contrast isn't great. And I'm dying to things I can't like easily see or easily dodge. And the fact that he's like comboing me like crazy, it just wasn't fun. And I put about maybe 5 to 6 attempts on him. And I was getting so enraged, I think, from the run back and the fact that I couldn't like observe any openings in Manus himself. It was just compounding my anger and my frustration, and the fact that I was seeing like that this was consuming more and more of my stream time, and that I really wanted to run see credits at the end of this stream. It was the first time I quit on a boss and I said, screw it, I'm okay never beating this thing. And I've never hit that level, I think, in Monster Hunter or any other game that I've streamed anyways, where I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is not enjoyable to me. This is not bringing me joy. I don't even want to like, there's nothing beyond this boss that is going to bring me satisfaction. So I abandoned him. And then I went to the Lord Vessel where we put all the Lord souls in the big soup bowl. And then we went to kill Gwyn. He destroyed me the first time because I didn't know what he was doing. And people kind of like made a suggestion of like, bring back the parry god. Like, how can you not parry? You've been training this since the beginning. I was like, oh, should I be parrying? And so for the first time since I got my Black Knight Glaive, I equipped the shield and one-handed it. And I went in there and I was like, okay, so you guys say I can just parry this guy. And we just bam, poke, bam, poke. My first attempt with the shield and the Black Knight Glaive, we killed Gwyn. And then from there was a bonfire. So of course I lit it and I set myself on fire and died, and the credits rolled. And then they sent me back to jail, leaving me with a very unsatisfied feeling of, why did I play this? What did I get out of this? Afterwards, we spent about an hour watching, we being the chat and I, watching lore videos to understand how it all works. And I was quite surprised that when we were watching like lore recap videos, I felt nostalgic where they're like, chosen undead, you must ring the bells to unlock the gate to Anor Londo, where you will get the soul vessel. And I was like, that's when I realized that the journey of Dark Souls, the pilgrimage, is such a like, it's such a special or unique, I'm not sure what the right word is, but that journey, like if me, someone who I would say, mediocrely enjoyed the game, felt a nostalgic, already an emotional, like nostalgic resonance to someone recounting the lore to me. I can only imagine what that must be like for a player who really enjoyed it a lot more, how much more of an emotional connection that must be. And yeah, so I think that pilgrimage and the fact that now I understand, I'm like, I know what the Dark Souls journey is all about. It's all about you go up, you ring the bell, or you go down and you ring the bell. You can go in either direction. You ring the bells, you go through Sen's Fortress, you go to Anolando, you get the Lord Vessel after killing the big 2 dudes, then you collect all the other souls, and then you kill the god of, or the Lord of Fire, and you bring either an end to the Fire Age, or you extend it a little bit longer. Being part of that knowledge is cool. And if there's one thing I love about this journey is the fact that I understand that part. Now, the game itself, I can't say I enjoyed it. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. First of all, it's a depressing game. And I tend to be very sensitive to depressing themed games, like even TV shows. I don't watch horror, and I don't watch anything like with zombies or anything like that, because it's overall a depressing theme for the most part. And that tends to impact me. And despite, I don't necessarily suffer from depression, it does lower my mood, morale, and I just feel less optimistic and alive in my actual life when I consume too much of that negative content. Now, some people are able to like consume that and not have that reaction, or they love it, or it like elevates, like, it's just a different experience for them. So there's that's, how that affects me. There's also the fact that this is an older game. So I think viewing it through 2021, I am probably a lot more critical and less accepting of some of the clunkiness of this game. So there's that. And then talking through with Rurikon, I realized the game seems to really shine for people who love to experiment. And, Rurikon was his first thought after he beat it. He was saying, well, what happens if I like do this build, or what happens if I get this first? And it's all about kind of replaying and trying different things. And as a player, I know I hate experimenting. I'm the type of player who wants to get everything, experience the game, and just move on, which is why any game that has like heavy customization or experimentation tends to put me off for the most part. So for me, what I'm looking for is that first time experience. And in Dark Souls, that first time experience, I don't think the first experience is the best experience for Dark Souls, because you're lacking the knowledge. You're just getting punished everywhere you go. You don't know what's going on. And it's only after that you've completed everything that you now have this kind of insight into the game and the world. You can go back and you can appreciate it on a different level. And Rurikon kind of mentioned this. And he says I should revisit this game maybe 6 months from now, go back in with a fresh mindset. And since I will know where to go and what to do and who's what and what's going on, I'll be a lot more informed about the world. And I totally agree with him. And I am personally curious to revisit the game, not replay it, but revisit it to see what it's all about. But overall, it's a game that didn't click for me. I was really hoping to get the same experience Monster Hunter gave me. And a lot of people were saying, Dark Souls is kind of like a cousin to Monster Hunter in terms of like gameplay and community. And so I was really expecting, since I hated Monster Hunter and I loved it after, that Dark Souls would be another one that I would hate and fall in love with. But it's just not the case. The game never clicked with me. There is more like negativity than positivity for me, that I would not recommend this game necessarily unless like I would be like, oh, you like experimenting? You like depressing theme? You're okay with older mechanics? Try Dark Souls. It's an experience that I think every gamer should be aware of what that pilgrimage is, just from like a concept standpoint of what a game can be. But if you don't want to play through that and you don't hit those like 3 items on the checklist, just avoid it and go play something happier, because there's a lot of better games. Now, with all of that in mind, where do we go from here in the Soulsborne world? Because this is the first Soulsborne game I have completed. So I've heard Dark Souls 2 from the Dark Souls community is kind of the black sheep. And I've heard some people say good things about it, and that doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. And I've heard from others that some of the mechanics I dislike are worse in Dark Souls 2. So it's a little bit of a, what do you call it? It's a bit of a, man, I can't get the word. So Dark Souls 2 is a controversial game from what I hear. Dark Souls 3 is the one that has been recommended to me the most out of all the 3 Dark Souls. And people have said that is where you should come in as a newcomer. It's the most recent Dark Souls. It has a lot of fleshed out mechanics. It ties to the lore of the first game. So without pledging anything, we're going to go into I'm going to stream Dark Souls 3 the next time. We're going to play 4 hours of it. We're just going to see what that game's about, how it compares to Dark Souls 1. If I see that the experience has been elevated in any way, I'm going to keep playing. But if I feel that Dark Souls 3 is just more of Dark Souls 1 with like a little bit more polish on it, that's just not for me, and it's going to be a no thank you, and I'm going to move on from Dark Souls. With that in mind, in Soulsborne, everyone's been saying Bloodborne is where I should go, and I'm also really curious about I'm not even curious about Sekiro. Sekiro I bought, and I didn't really understand the Soulsborne genre, and it was just the difficulty kind of kept me locked out of the game, and I never went back to it. So Sekiro is another game that is less about the experimentation for Soulsborne. So I'm really curious about Bloodborne and Sekiro. So those two, if Dark Souls 3 does not do it for me, we're going to go to Bloodborne because I've heard every weapon in there is like a switch axe. So we're going to try that. And if Bloodborne doesn't click, I already have Sekiro. So I want to go back, and I like the theme of Sekiro. And we're going to try that. And if that doesn't click, I am closing the door on Soulsborne games for a long time, or maybe we'll try Elden Ring. I don't know. But that's the route we're going to take, and we'll see where that leads us. So thank you everyone for joining me on my Dark Souls journey. I'm glad we got to experience it together. If you're a big fan of the franchise and I played it in a way that upset you, I mean, I apologize, but also everyone's experience is different. And while mine was with a streaming audience, that is the way I'm happy to have experienced my first Dark Souls. It's not a game I would have wanted to play on my own. It would have been even more depressing for me. And I probably wouldn't have finished it if I was playing this by myself. So I'll see you in the next journal or on the next stream. And until next time, keep it classy.